I'm a divorced woman in her late 50s, and I live alone. I have a small apartment that I share with a few cats. My kids are all grown up. For the longest time now, I have felt extremely uncomfortable inside my apartment. I'm not sure when exactly this all started, but it's been a long time, and it's only gotten worse as time has gone by. I know that most people when they hear this are going to say something like, "Oh, she's crazy," or "It's just all in her head." But I swear to you that everything I'm about to tell you is the absolute truth. There's something inside my apartment. Something evil. There's something here that wants to hurt me, and I don't know why. Some of the things I'm about to explain might sound familiar to some people, while other things might sound like pure nonsense or just make-believe. But I have no reason to lie about any of this, and I have nothing to gain by being dishonest. I just want to share my story and my experiences with everyone, and I sincerely hope that anyone out there that hears this, that has had similar experiences, can get help before it's too late. I'll talk about my children first. I have 2 grown children. They're both adults now with their own families. Neither of them live around here. My son visits sometimes, and my daughter almost never. My son would come by once a week or so to see how I was doing. He never liked the idea of me spending so much time alone. I guess he was always afraid I would grow into one of those old senile cat ladies with hundreds of cats overrunning her house while she speaks gibberish to herself and scratches the walls during the full moon. But I always assured him that I was fine living alone. I didn't mind it. I went through the typical messy divorce that so many people talk about going through. It's usually the husband that complains that the ex-wife got everything, but in my case it was the exact opposite. I had come into my marriage with nothing, and when we divorced, that's exactly what I left with. I didn't have a penny to my name, and as a result, once the divorce process started, I found myself needing to go out and get a job after not having worked for over 20 years. Needless to say, that didn't go well. I was a 50-something-year-old woman with almost zero work experience, no real grasp on modern technology, and I certainly couldn't move like I did when I was in my 20s. I'd be working part-time jobs at stores as a cashier or a greeter or something like that, but those never paid that much, and I really didn't like doing them anyway. It wasn't long before my attempt to pick up the pace while standing on a small rickety ladder at work ended me up in the hospital, and eventually on disability. I'm sure my coworkers were secretly glad to see me go. I was slow as heck at the job, and most of them didn't like me anyway. I really wasn't a people person either, so it was probably for the best. I was spending all my time now at home, taking pain pills for the back injury while watching movies and just trying to stay positive about the situation. My son would stop by with food, help me run errands, and do other things while I waited for the injury to get better. But unfortunately, it wouldn't get better. I found that due to my age and the early onset of osteoporosis, that my injury to my back would be the end of my working career, and I would have to spend the rest of my time disabled and in pain. It was a blow to my ego as I really wanted to be self-sufficient, and I didn't want anyone to have to take care of me. I didn't want to have to burden my children, and I knew my ex-husband wasn't going to be stopping by to ask how I was either way. At some point during this whole ordeal, I began having night terrors. I don't honestly know if it was brought on by the emotional stress or the pain meds, but they went from being small episodes that I would experience maybe once a week to becoming an almost nightly thing with varying degrees of severity. I made my mind up to have my pain pill intake reduced as well as the strength of the capsules against my own doctor's advice to see if this would make the episodes subside. They didn't. I thought maybe I was going through the early effects of withdrawal, but when the weeks went by and this kept happening more and more, I figured I could cross that off the list of potential suspects. My son had convinced me, perhaps, that this was because I was spending too much time inside the apartment and not enough time outside. So once again, going against my doctor's orders, I started to make more and more trips outside. At first they were short walks with my walker, just down the block and back, up until eventually I was walking around the entire block. It hurt like not to be believed, but it was nice to get some fresh air and some sunlight. I thought this was exactly what I needed. My magical cure-all to the nightmares and the paranoid feelings I began having inside the apartment. I thought this was the solution, but I was wrong. So very, very wrong. One night, I awoke to a scratching sound. It wasn't like the noise my cats would or could make, since they were all declawed. This was the scratching sound that nails make against wood. I couldn't be certain where the sound was coming from, it just seemed to be all around me. I decided to try to ignore it and just go back to sleep. I told myself that it might have been a branch scratching against the window or something similar. This was followed by the strangest dream that I have ever experienced. In my dream, I was being chased by a witch with a bottle in her hand. It looked like something dark inside the bottle, kind of like ink. I can't really be sure, but I thought it may have been a sign of some sort. Like maybe I needed to look different or change something about me to make the nightmare stop. The next day, I went out to the store and I bought a bottle of hair dye. It was a very dark color, darker than I would normally pick, but I want something different than I would normally choose. That night, I dyed my hair, and that night, I actually slept without a nightmare. Not even one. My son came to visit the next day, and the entire time he stayed, he had a very nervous look about him. I thought maybe it was because he was shocked by the color of my hair, but he didn't even mention it. Not once. I asked him a few times if he was all right, and he only said, "Yes, I'm fine," before quickly changing the subject. Before he left, he said something very odd, something that scared me. He said, "Mom, I don't want you staying here." I asked him why. I told him I was fine living by myself. He said, "Mom, the devil is here. I don't want you staying here." And with that, he left. About my son, he isn't terribly religious. He maybe went to church 5 times in his entire life, and every time, he always complained about how boring it was. I would not call him religious. I don't know what I'd call him when it comes to God, but religious he certainly wasn't. Yet I couldn't understand or even believe the look on his face and the tone of his voice when he said the word devil. It was like something out of a horror movie. I've never seen him have that look about him. That same night, the nightmare started again. This continued for another week. I started to think my son may have been onto something, and I began praying every night. I wasn't super religious myself, but I figured that it couldn't hurt to pray. The scratching noises also started again soon after that, and I found myself considering getting another apartment or maybe even moving to another city altogether. I woke up early one morning and I decided to take the trash out to the dumpster. It wasn't something that I normally did each week, as the on-site maintenance man would usually grab it for me when I left it in the hallway. But today I got up early and I really just wanted something to do. My back was actually feeling better and I figured why not? It was only 2 small bags and the walk to the dumpster would only take a minute. I carried the bags, one in each hand, and I walked outside to the dumpster. The first bag went in without any trouble at all. My back wasn't even hurting. I felt great, honestly. I began lifting the second bag up when I felt a strange sensation in my neck. It wasn't pain, but a tingling sensation. Like when you're near one of those static globes you see at the science museums. And then I heard a voice. "Don't leave me." I don't know why I responded, but I did. I said, "I need to leave. I don't like it here anymore." And then I got a reply.
"You aren't going anywhere."
I then felt a sudden shot of excruciating pain shoot through my leg, followed by a loud snap. I collapsed to the cement. When I came to, I was in the ER. My leg was broken and one of the other tenants had found me laying unconscious by the dumpster. My son was in the ER and he was asking me what had happened and how I fell. I told him that I didn't fall. That's what I tell everyone, because it's the truth. I still live in that same apartment. I never experienced much activity again after that. It was like it almost stopped entirely. I honestly don't know what it is or what caused it, but I know that this is the truth.